There are love stories that burn like fire, loud and consuming, and then there are those that exist in silence, in glances, in moments that never got their chance to bloom. The connection between Caroline Forbes and Klaus Mikaelson is one such story, a masterpiece painted in longing, timing, and what-ifs. Their tale began not with harmony but with hatred, not with confession but with confrontation. And yet, beneath the chaos, something delicate was born, a spark that refused to die even when years and distance tried to bury it. In the Vampire Diaries, Caroline was the light of Mystic Falls, loyal, moral, organized, and full of life. Klaus, on the other hand, was the darkness incarnate, the hybrid king, immortal, dangerous, ruthless. But when darkness fell in love with light, it didn't consume her. It admired her. It cherished her. Klaus's affection wasn't loud, it was steady. He didn't demand Caroline's heart, he waited for her to recognize his. From the moment he healed her from the werewolf bite, Klaus saw in Caroline what no one else did, not a perfectionist vampire, but a soul hungry to explore life, the world, art, and freedom. He told her, "You're strong, you're full of light. I enjoy you." And that was the start, the softest declaration from a monster who had spent 1,000 years drowning in loneliness. For the first time, Klaus didn't just want to conquer, he wanted to protect. Caroline, however, was torn between her morality and curiosity. She hated what he stood for, yet couldn't deny the fascination. Every time Klaus appeared, her eyes softened, her defenses wavered. She saw his art, his music, his loneliness, things no one bothered to see. He, in return, gave her letters, drawings, and an eternity of promises, but never pressure. It was love from afar, patient and pure, unfulfilled yet eternal. Their story never found its ending in the Vampire Diaries, nor in the originals. It existed in fragments, a dance, a letter, a promise, a final goodbye. And perhaps that's what made it so hauntingly beautiful. Because sometimes, two souls meet at the wrong time, but even wrong timing cannot erase what destiny wrote in invisible ink. 1. They were polar opposites that completed each other. Caroline was everything Klaus wasn't, pure-hearted, disciplined, moral, and alive. Klaus was everything Caroline tried to resist, wild, ancient, chaotic, and unrestrained. Yet together, they balanced one another. When they spoke, it was like watching sunlight meet shadow. Klaus admired Caroline's humanity, while she challenged his monstrosity. Their opposite worlds didn't collide, they complemented each other, making their dynamic unforgettable. Despite all his power, Klaus never forced her affection. His respect for her freedom became the purest act of love. In every conversation, Caroline softened his cruelty and reminded him what redemption looked like. Their differences became the thread that held their story together, fragile, but unbreakable. 2. Their first real connection was through vulnerability. When Klaus healed Caroline from a werewolf bite, it wasn't just an act of saving, it was the beginning of something tender. Caroline was at her weakest, terrified of dying, and Klaus showed her compassion she didn't expect from the monster she hated. It was the first time she saw him not as the villain, but as someone capable of kindness. Klaus, in that moment, didn't boast about his power. He simply wanted to ease her pain. His words, "You're beautiful, you're strong, you're full of light," echoed long after he left. It was love in its rawest form, no manipulation, no demands, just an unspoken promise that she mattered. 3. Klaus saw her potential beyond Mystic Falls. Caroline often confined herself to her comfort zone, to Mystic Falls, to order and control. Klaus saw something far greater, a woman capable of conquering the world. He told her she deserved more than a small town and a predictable life. He wanted her to dream bigger, to see beyond the walls that kept her heart safe. He was the only one who didn't want to change her, he wanted her to evolve. While others saw her as the loyal friend or perfect vampire, Klaus saw the queen within her. His love wasn't about possession, it was about liberation. 4. They shared unspoken understanding. Even when they were enemies, their conversations were laced with emotional truth. They could see through each other's masks, Caroline's moral high ground and Klaus's brutality. Beneath their words was always a deeper language: respect, curiosity, and longing. Every smirk, every glance, every near confession carried more emotion than most couples express in years. When Klaus said, "I intend to be your last love," Caroline didn't scoff. She smiled. Because deep down, she knew he meant it, and a part of her believed it too. 5. Klaus never rushed her feelings. He waited. Through years, through wars, through lifetimes, Klaus waited for Caroline to be ready. Even when she loved others, he respected her choices. He didn't beg, didn't chase, he simply reminded her that he would be there. It was a quiet, patient kind of love that defied the chaos of their world. When she finally called him years later in the originals, the warmth in his voice said everything. Time hadn't changed what he felt. Klaus's love remained constant, unwavering, and beautifully tragic. 6. Their chemistry was magnetic yet painful. Every time they met, the air thickened. The tension between them wasn't just romantic, it was spiritual. Klaus's eyes softened when she entered the room, Caroline's voice trembled when she spoke to him. It was love restrained by circumstance, timing, and pride. They could never be together, yet they could never stay apart. Their chemistry was the kind that made silence louder than dialogue. And maybe that's what made it unforgettable. It wasn't about touch or confession. It was about energy, timing, and everything left unsaid. 7. Caroline represented redemption for Klaus. Caroline was Klaus's compass, the reminder that goodness still existed. Her presence forced him to face his cruelty, to question his own emptiness. Every act of mercy he showed afterward had traces of her influence. Caroline never needed to change him, she inspired him to change himself. In the originals, his final moments before death carried echoes of her, the calm she once brought to his storm. She represented the love he could never have, but always cherished. 8. Klaus gave her freedom, not chains. While other men in Caroline's life wanted to protect or control her, Klaus offered her freedom. He wanted her to explore, to dream, to see the beauty of the world. His love wasn't territorial, it was empowering. He gave her a vision: Paris, art, immortality with purpose. Even in his letters to her, he never begged for her presence. He simply hoped she'd live a life worthy of her light. That was his final gift, freedom without expectation. 9. They met at the wrong time, always. Timing was their cruelest enemy. When Caroline was ready to love, Klaus was too broken. When Klaus found peace, Caroline had moved on. The universe kept them circling around each other but never aligning. And that became the essence of their tragedy, perfect souls meeting at imperfect moments. Their story wasn't unfinished, it was eternal. Because true connections don't need an ending. They linger in memory, in music, in the heartbeats between goodbyes. 10. They shared artistic souls. Klaus painted her not because of her beauty, but because she inspired creation in him. Caroline awakened his dormant humanity, the artist within the monster. Through art, he loved her silently. His sketches were not confessions, they were prayers. Art became the bridge between their worlds, beauty meeting brutality, love surviving in canvas form when words failed them. 11. She understood his loneliness. Caroline saw the broken boy behind the 1,000-year-old immortal. When Klaus spoke of his pain, she didn't fear him, she listened. In her eyes, he wasn't a villain, he was someone who had forgotten what love felt like. That understanding softened him in ways no spell ever could. And though she never said it aloud, Caroline pitied his solitude, because she knew what it was like to hide behind perfection and strength. 12. They had one final goodbye that felt like forever. When Klaus sacrificed himself in the originals, his final letter to Caroline broke hearts. He thanked her for being his light, for reminding him of who he could have been. Caroline cried not because he died, but because she finally realized how deeply he had loved her all along. Their goodbye wasn't tragic, it was poetic. Because even in death, Klaus's last thoughts were of her. 13. They proved that love doesn't need fulfillment. Their story never reached marriage, confessions, or forever. Yet it remains one of the most talked about pairings in both series. Because sometimes, love doesn't need to be fulfilled to be real. Sometimes, its beauty lies in what never happened, in the restraint, the longing, the eternal almost. Klaus and Caroline taught that love is not about possession, but about presence, even from afar. Some stories are meant to end with closure, but theirs wasn't one of them. Klaus and Caroline's story lived between pages, in silences, in the space between two hearts that found each other too soon and too late at once. They were the embodiment of love that transcends time, but not timing. Their relationship wasn't about possession, it was about impact. Klaus changed because of her, Caroline grew because of him. Even when oceans of difference kept them apart, they lived in each other's evolution. Every act of kindness in him carried her light, every dream she chased carried his voice. Perhaps that's why their story hurts so beautifully, because it reminds us that love isn't always about being together. Sometimes, it's about being the person who changes someone's soul forever, even if you never share a lifetime. Klaus gave Caroline the world, and Caroline gave Klaus peace, and maybe that's the purest form of love. In the end, Caroline didn't just lose a man, she lost a memory that would haunt her heart softly, like the echo of his accent in the dark. And Klaus didn't just die, he lived on through the smile of the woman he once loved from afar. So maybe they were never destined to be lovers, but they were destined to find each other. Because some souls are meant to meet, not to stay, but to awaken. And that's what made their story a masterpiece, a perfect match, always cursed by the wrong timing.